All right. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of our BDPA Tech and Career Talk, as well as this is a special edition this week. This is our next installment in our Entrepreneurship from Idea to Lunch speaker series in collaboration with the National Society of Black Engineers. So, I have my partner in crime, Chris Small, on the call as well. And we're glad to have you here today. I'll give a brief background around BDPA and the Tech and Career Talk, as well as our entrepreneurship program for those who may be unfamiliar. You also may hear my permanent co-host here, Emery, in the background. She likes to attend these as well. You got it? You good? All right. So starting with BDPA, so Black Data Processing Associates, been around since 1975 as a way for those African Americans, people of color in the technology industry to continue to develop their skill sets and grow in their careers. But also we're a forum for teaching youth, middle and high school students computer programming skills. So we want to make sure we have a talent pipeline that is diverse and representative of the Black community in the technology industry. But we also want to make sure those who are working in the field continue to have opportunities to grow and develop in their careers with our mantra of advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So that's what BDPA is all about. Our Tech and Career Talks are held on the second and fourth Friday of each month. We have different speakers speaking on a range of topics. So we have our most immediate speaker, Ashton Clark, on the call as well, who's the co-founder, CEO of Ticket Falcon, as well as an executive at McCormick and IT. So keep on joining us. We have different talks, different topics, different speakers. So we try to get something in for everyone at some point or another. And then we have National Society of Black Engineers, which is an organization that's been around for quite some time as well, making huge strides and continuing to make sure we have a diverse pipeline of candidates and talent in the engineering disciplines. And that spans all across engineering chapters all across the country. And I think there may even be some international there as well, both at the pre-collegiate level, collegiate level, and graduate level. So I'm glad to have you here with us today. Our Entrepreneurship from Idea to Lunch program is an initiative that BDPA and NSBE are collaborating on with the goal of providing new and aspiring entrepreneurs with tools and resources they need to take their business ideas and launch them into successful, thriving businesses. So this is our fourth installment in the speaker series. We've had 3 previous talks here. We are looking to now begin a summer program that's focused on business planning and preparing them to have a firm business plan and pitch deck together for their businesses. And we ultimately plan to culminate this round of the program at the BDPA conference in August, with them giving those pitches, and then we providing some form of resources and support for a few of those businesses after that. So more details to come on that. If you're signed up for the program, continue to be on the lookout for more to come there. But without further ado, I will turn the floor over to our speaker today, Hanna, who is the founder CEO of Evva Health out of Atlanta, a health tech startup focused on families and patients, specifically with dementia, make sure they have the care and resources they need to take care of themselves properly. So I'll turn the floor over to Carl to talk us through some business planning and structuring strategies and tips. So Carl, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Devin. Good happy Friday, everyone. Sharissa, Chris, Joyce, George, and Ashton, of course, Devin, Sharissa, I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Okay, perfect. I get the green light from her. So happy Friday again. So excited to talk about, business planning and structuring today, but also I wanted to, of course, make it interactive. We'll talk about, some of the basics, some of the, basic structure of a business plan and think about and what you need to think about when you're structuring your business. But also I want to do it very in an interactive fashion as we go through those topics. So if you have any questions, let's collaborate on this. We want to make sure it's I don't want to do a lecture. right? I want to make sure, I want to really keep it like almost like a workshop. So you have question, let's ask those questions, let's work through some of the questions that you have. So at the end of this session, it's beneficial to you, right? So before we get started, let me just talk a bit about me, a quick background. So I was trained as an engineer. Went to the gamut of bachelor's, master's, PhD from Georgia Tech here in Atlanta. And about 15 years ago, after I finished my PhD, decided to really go into, get tired of running simulation in my lab and sleeping in my lab, and decided to, hey, as an introvert, I needed to be out there, and especially in the business world. So decided to go into consulting. 3 years of IT consulting, focusing on customer relationship management software, business solution software for the telco industry. Those 3 years took me to South America for about a year in Montevideo, Uruguay. Was doing a big transformation project there with the team, and then moved back to Atlanta for about a couple of years at AT&T. I was still working for a company called Amdocs, but working as a consultant with AT&T in part of their mobility division. So a quick story there. I remember I had some issue with my phone, so I called the customer representative, and she was asking some of the questions, and typically she gets from a script, and so I'm like, I helped design that script, so I know exactly what you're gonna ask me the next. So can we move past that and get me with the team that can solve that issue? So post Amdocs, went to Deloitte Consulting, and at Deloitte spent about 5 years, and the focus really at Deloitte was healthcare. So at Deloitte, I got my introduction to healthcare, so the provider space, and never looked back. So it's been 12 years in that space. So at Deloitte, done work all across the spectrum, from strategy all the way to implementation. So strategy work, cost reallocation, workforce management, supply chain work, surgical services optimization. So wanted to get that managing experience, and definitely got it there. Opportunity to really understand, how the business in the part of healthcare, how that's run, right? What are some of the challenges, right? What are some of the workflows that physician may be worrying about, but the patient may not see some of the challenge, the inner challenge. And after that, what happens when the patient, the family leaves the doctor's office? How's that experience, right? So about 5 years at Deloitte, crisscrossed the nation several times over, been to small town, big town, exotic towns such as Hawaii, right, on a project, in the cold weather in Chicago, in a warm of Florida. So I've crisscrossed the nation several times over. And then Deloitte PwC, about 3.5 years there, just bigger transformation. Had an opportunity with them to go and do a pro bono work in Africa, in Ghana, to be more specific, about, for a month, which was very, it's good to go back to the motherland, right? So definitely an experience. If you get a chance to go to Ghana, it's definitely an enlightening experience. So, I thought I was gonna be, although I did the work and I really helped the organization, but what I got from a cultural standpoint, right, from an history standpoint, that was transformative to me, right? And I think that's what got me into the journey of entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship, which is something that's always been in the back of my mind, because my dad was an entrepreneur, right? But never had the courage, right, to step into that role. And I'll say everything started with the motherland, right? And of course, I'm from Haiti, but I think we all can relate that, at some point in our ancestry history, we were in the African continent. But fast forward about a couple of years ago, decided to build and co-found Evva Health, which is a health tech company, like Devin mentioned, based in Atlanta, and we're using AI, right, to support family caregivers and their loved ones suffering from dementia at home. So how to use AI to really understand what the needs profile is for the patient and also their family, and bring the right resource, whether it's information, intervention, and services to this family at the right time. So that's a little bit about me, right? if you want me to, it's a funny thing. I'll speak about 4 languages. But so if French, Spanish, Haitian, Creole, started learning Romanian, and I can give you the backstory at a later time. But today it's not about me. It's really about business, process, business, planning and structuring, right? And before we get into that topic, right, it's really, I think the first thing that any business owner or founder or someone with a great idea needs to think about is, are you creating a small business or are you creating a startup, right? And I'll give you the difference between the two, right? Obviously, a startup starts as a small business, but the thing with a startup, it's trying to grow and trying to grow fast, right? To make an impact, not only in where you are, like maybe your city, your state, but you really trying to create that impact across probably multiple states, right? Or maybe global, maybe it's a global impact that you're trying to make. And you're trying to grow it very quickly, right? A small business, and there's nothing wrong about small businesses, right? You can have small businesses that have 100 employees, right? A small business is kind of the scope the impact you're trying to make. Could be just in your city, just in your state, right? You're not trying to, you may be just expanding on an existing, business, or doing something similar to a competition, and you're trying to grow whatever time it takes. You're trying to grow it organically. So you're gonna sell a product, you're gonna make some revenue, you're gonna make a profit, and you reinvest, right? So you're not necessarily often looking for outside money, right, in order to grow that business. Whereas a startup, it's about pitching, it's about raising, it's about talking to investors, talking with partners in order to grow and to grow fast, right? So that's that's one thing you want to think about, right? Because depending on where you go, depending on what you're thinking, right, there is when you think about how do you structure that business in terms of, is it an LLC you want to do? It's a C Corp, S Corp, nonprofit, right? So starting answering that question, right, helps you figure out, at least start reducing, trying to understand. Now you can understand your option a bit better. So if I'm a small business, you probably don't want to integrate your company as or incorporate your company as a C Corp, right? It doesn't make sense. And an S Corp maybe, right? And LLC most likely, right? A nonprofit, now it's going to be, now you're thinking about your mission, your vision, right? Is it something that really, the focus is really making an impact on your community, and not necessarily driven by, hey, profit at all cost, right? If that's the case, then you may want to think about, hey, let me do a nonprofit, and that's going to be more or less a small business. So if you're a startup, right, you're most likely thinking about, hey, I want to be a C Corp. You can start on an LLC, right? You can, because it's just easier. Within like less than 30 minutes, you can jump on your state's side and incorporate it locally at the state level, and that takes probably like 10 minutes. And then boom, and of course there's some other paperwork you have to do, but boom, you have an LLC. A C Corp versus a C Corp is really, hey, you're thinking, hey, I wanna be able to attract investors. I want to grow and grow fast, and the C Corp gives you that flexibility. And when you think about C Corp, you can have a C Corp within your state, but but what you want to think about and what you want to do really for C Corps, you want to go that way, just do it Delaware, right? Because investors, lawyers are more accustomed to Delaware C Corp. So every company is here that's in the state, small or big, right? Big corporation on NASDAQ, on stock market, they're all incorporated in Delaware, right? You may be headquartered somewhere else, right? But you'll see all of them are, Delaware, C Corp, right? And so that's when it comes to thinking about that structuring, right, from a legal standpoint versus, small business versus startup, right? I'll stop there for a moment before you dive into kind of planning the business, right? Thinking about what's your services, how do you, what's the research you need to do in order to have a solid business plan. I'll stop there and see if you have any question. And feel free, don't be shy. Let's discuss it. I think we have some time here.
So you want questions from us now? I have a question about, so you can get a C Corp or you can get an LLC, and you recommend LLC for smaller businesses of 20 or less. Is that what do you consider a small business?
Yeah, 20 or less can be a small business. I think the definition of small business by the US labor, I think it's and I'll have to double check, but I think it's at least you can have less than 500 employees and be considered a small business, right? So it's not as small as we think when we say small business. It's actually, a 500 employee organization can still be a small business. And we're thinking when they were giving those checks to small businesses, right? Folks were some companies were like, oh yeah, I have 200 in one location, I have 200 in another, right? And I have 50, 120, something. Even if I have more than that 500, they found a way to break it down into less than that 500 number to fall under the small business.
Okay, which of those type of corporations will protect my personal assets the best? Like if I own houses, personal homes, and I don't want the business expenses or failures to take my personal assets, which one will protect me the best?
Well, I think both, an LLC will protect you, right? I also have a couple of LLCs, right? That's beyond Evva as well for other things. So LLC will protect your asset, right? So so if you're worried about, hey, you want to put your house on an LLC, then you'll be protected, right? If something happens to you, it won't go towards that asset because you're somewhat different entity. But when it comes to tax, the government will see you as one. So any profit that the LLC will make will go through your income, right? And then you're going to have to that earning through as your earning, right? And so the LLC will not pay the tax, but in terms of protecting your asset, this is a mechanism to protect your asset. And C Corp is, of course, it's a separate entity, owns its own thing, but it's more complicated. So you don't want to necessarily invest into setting up a C Corp, if it's just to protect your, assets. So I think you'll definitely look at LLC. And of course, I'm not a corporate lawyer, or so I'll of course refer you to entities, to your talk to your lawyers, talk to even folks at LegalZoom that can give you that. But I'm talking about my own experience, right? What I think it's best. And to answer your question, both of them will do, but you may want to do an LLC just because the paperwork is just simpler.
Okay, so you're going to talk about the whole structure of what we need in order to have a solid business. All right, so I'll reframe my questions. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. All right, any more questions? Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for the question. All right.
There's one question in the chat.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
It says, when building a startup, how do you structure the business to accommodate future growth and scalability?
So that's, if, in terms of a structure, that's when you want to start thinking about your being a C Corp, right? Because that gives you the most flexibility. So investors love it, right? Because they are accustomed to it, right? That piece, it's of course protects your asset. It's a separate entity, and things like that. So if you're thinking about a startup, and you're thinking about, hey, I need to raise money. I'm going to raise money from the outside, raise money from investors, bring in, different folks in different capacity, and I could, attract them with both shares and money, right? The C Corp will allow you to do this. And you can do an S Corp as well, but the S Corp is limited, right? In terms of many shareholders that you have, you can only get a maximum of 100 shareholders when you have a S Corp, or the C Corp is unlimited. But they all have, and the paperwork is not straightforward. So you'll need a representation in Delaware. And all the services can be you can pay for them, and it's not cost prohibitive, but at least it's probably going to cost you $1,000 just to incorporate a C Corp.
Okay. You have a few more questions in the chat, which I'm guessing some of these probably are a good transition into your next few points. So one actually made a comment to look into a series LLC as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have a question from George around what should a business plan encompass, which I'm assuming we'll probably get into here shortly. Yeah. And then lastly, Joyce asks, can you talk about how to develop business with partners? So I wanted you to make sure you knew those were out there.
Okay, awesome. And Devin, keep me on task here if I don't answer all the, if I forget one of those questions, or one of those, if I don't make the points to address some of these questions. So yeah, let's go to the meat of that conversation, right, around business plan. So you'll find a bunch of templates out there when it comes to business plan, right? The different templates, slightly different, but when you take a look at every single one of them, you'll see, I mean, the themes are very much the same, right? And if you're structuring your pitch deck, right, you'll have to structure them similarly, right? A business plan, you can have a pitch deck could be your business plan too, right? Especially if you're testing, you're building something that's never been done before, right? So you need money to get to that point. So you may want, depending on the investors, you may not, it's easier to get in front of the investors having a pitch deck versus sending them a Word document. But having said that, right, and going back to my previous point, what the elements of a pitch or business plans are essentially the same. So you'll be talking about, okay, what's the mission, what's the vision of the company, why are you doing this, right, and after that, right, why are you doing this? What is the problem? What is the problem you're trying to solve, right? So that's one of the main piece, right? What is exactly you're trying to solve? For us, I'll give you an example for Evva, right? Our problem is the problem we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve a problem for family caregivers, right? When it comes to caring for a loved one, right? And that problem has 3 layers. One is the coordination of daily activities. 2, it's really, understanding the information that's being distributed, that's being shared, right? And third, it's really around finding the right resource to support you in that journey and plan for kind of the next step. So that's the problem for us, but you all have your own problem that you're trying to solve. And then what is the solution, right? Say, what is the solution? So how are you going to solve that problem, right? And then through that, what's unique about you, right? Why someone would invest in this business, in your business, versus another one, right? So those are the kind of the first few slides or few section of a business plan: mission, vision, mission, problem, solution. Then, now you have to do your research in terms to understand what's the market, right? So you have, before I get into market, are you going to make money? So you have a problem you're trying to solve. You have the solution, right? So are you going to make money, right? And so if you are a nonprofit, you're like, okay, well, it's not about money, it's about the mission, right? But if you're doing something that's a for-profit organization, it's all about how you're going to make money. Then so that's one. A second piece, following by that is, okay, you figure out how you're going to make money. Whether it's you're going to sell product, whether you're doing subscription service, right? whether is, you having data and you're selling it, right? Whatever the service, right? So are you going to plan to generate that revenue and ultimately make that profit? And then followed by that is, how big is that market, right? So how many people out there going to pay for that services or have that need, have that problem, right? So for us is, when we're looking at, we did our research, we know it's, there's at least, 12 or so million of families, right, that are caring for a loved one with dementia at home. Then how much money are they paying for? How much money are they paying for what they do every day, the time they spend, and etc. So that gives you the size, just start figure out the start of the market. Now, I think it would be a good, as we're thinking through this, right? My experience and, my business is very different, could be very different from any one of you, right? So the market will be different. How you figure out the size of the market is very different, right? And so after the market size is, who else is doing something similar to you, to what's your competition look like, right? Do you have competition? And you probably, if you say there is no competition, folks, that's never a good sign to investors, because it may be two things, right? You may not have done your due diligence to really understand who's there is doing something similar. So could be a red flag, right? Or there may not be any interest, right? And that's why other people have not done it in the past, right? So you got to be, you really have to do your search to come out with the statement that there is no competition. There's always competition. There's always someone who's doing something, some flavor, maybe not be doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but there's always, flavor, right? Or could be a flavor out there of what you're thinking of doing, right? So you always need to spend some time doing that market research, market analysis, to see where you are. And then the last piece is really around, okay, so you've established the problem, the solution, are you going to make money, the size of the market, right? So how are you gonna structure, what are some of the resources that you need, right? You're raising money, so you need cash, right? But once you get the cash, how are you going to deploy that cash? So you got to be specific there, right? Is it, hey, this is for an engineering team, right? This is for daily operation. This is for marketing. This is for sale. What more or less an allocation of that money? And you don't have to be specific to the dollar, but definitely have, hey, is it half of it's going to go towards engineering, right? So if you're in a tech company, definitely half, right? But again, that's something that you have to figure out. How many resources do you need, and how are you gonna bring those resources online, right? Or are you, thinking about hiring people, right? How many people? Which role are you going to hire first, right? And I think these are kind of the main component of a business plan, of a pitch deck, right? A business plan, you're going to have to write, the word, kind of a Word document and show this. But if you're ready, and I know August, some of you may be pitching, so it's definitely, thinking of that PowerPoint to be able to tell the investors within 5 to 10 minutes, why they should bet on you, right? On you and your idea, right? So I'll stop there. I know there are some questions that are coming up, but let's hear them. Let me go into the chat.
And anyone can feel free to come up. You can ask your question, or we can ask it directly from the chat, whatever people are comfortable with.
I think business with partners. Okay, I see a question there, and that's from Joyce. Can you talk about how to develop business with partners? Let's see. With any partnership, it's you have, what's in it for them, what's in it for you, right? So when you're talking to our partners, you got to be able to explicitly say, so, are you going to help them? And at the same time, you also may know how they're going to help you, right? So you got to be transparent and say, hey, what's in it for you, and of course, what's in it for me. So we're doing things with some partnership with Meals on Wheels here in Atlanta. And our discussion about, after talking about our solution and what we're thinking, it's applicable to Meals on Wheels, but we went straight after that into what's in it for Meals on Wheels, right? Are they going to be able to improve some of the interaction they have with the families? Are they going to be able to tell their story even better and track their metrics in a easier fashion so they can have better conversation with their donors and hopefully increase the donors' participation, right, when it comes to raising funds, right? So I think as any partner, and there are partners for different things, right? There are partners that's going to strengthen your business, so it gives you other avenues, right? So it's really more of a, hey, let's figure out, how do we work together? How can we make me stronger? And that conversation could be like, hey, how do you invest in my company? Or how do we co-create things, right? And there are some partners is really about, hey, I'm gonna be the exclusive provider, the exclusive supplier for you, right? And of course, I'm gonna make some concession on the price I charge, right, to you, but I know I'm gonna get the volume. So depending on what you want to do in the partners, the approach can be very different. So if you're thinking about, and for us, we're thinking about, hey, we have this person that's that's an expert, right, in that field. We want to be able to tap into their expertise and maybe their network. And for us, that partnership is more an advisory partnership and see them as advisors. So we can bring them on, and we have a few of them where we're like, hey, at our stage, we can't pay your your big fees, but would you take shares into the company? And we're able to attract talent like this, right? And the CCorp does give you that flexibility to bring to bring someone at different level in terms of number of shares that you give to him or her. Joyce, hopefully I answered your question. I know it was probably a long-winded answer. I think the next one from Joyce. Do these rules apply if your business will offer service internationally? Okay. So which rule are you talking about, Joyce? Joyce, if you're
what I'm talking about is, okay, so let's say that I have some intellectual capital where I'm offering not a physical, but an intellectual business.
Yeah.
And I want to target the German market.
Mm-hmm.
How do I structure my business so that I am that it's lawful for Germany and America?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're probably I know the answer, but you also want to check with your legal person too, right? Your legal crew or your lawyer and things like that.
So I really need a good international lawyer.
Yeah, you will. So the LLC, right? The LLC structure that we have here, right? It's good for anything that you have in the US, right? But not every country outside US recognize an LLC, right? So they do recognize the CCorp, right? Because again, every organization that have reach internationally structure themselves as CCorp, right? So if you're a CCorp, then you have different mechanism out there to protect you and protect your asset, right? An LLC may not be, and I don't know about Germany, right? So that's something that you have to check with someone in the legal profession to help you with that. That's focused on international business. That can tell you, hey, yep, for an LLC, Germany recognize it. Then these are your protection under LLC. But my default would be a C Corp. But again, there are things that the obligation that comes in with a C Corp and more paperwork for you to do, right? So you'll want to talk to a lawyer if you're thinking about, especially about IP protection, right? Across borders.
So it sounds like that the first thing I need to do is establish which type of corporation I'm going to have, and then assemble a team to help me, like my attorney, a financial expert, a business manager, all those things. Is that?
Yeah, so yeah, you definitely need, so going back to your vision and mission, right? And it's like, and the objectives, your near-term objective, what you want to do, right? Are you gonna quickly, start selling or licensing your IP within 3 months, right? Overseas, or 6 months overseas, right? Is that the business that you want to do, right? Do you want to go immediately abroad and not focus on the US market? If that's the business that you want to do, you want to bring the right team into the fold. Now, are you bringing the right team? So you can say, hey, I have enough money, I can pay for services, and I don't have to give you equity in my company, right? Then an LLC could be, you can pay your lawyer and say, hey, this is my LLC. I want to keep it small. Let's tell me what's the realm of possibility if I start doing business in Germany, right? Versus you can say, well, I probably need expert. I need to bring expert in besides myself, right, or some close order. But I know I probably going to have an expert in Germany, an expert in France, right, or team in France and team in Germany. Then a C Corp may be the right fit, right, for that vision of the company that you have, right? And again, it takes it can be a long road towards that vision, right? So it's okay to start small and strengthen your organization, nationally, locally, if that makes sense, before thinking about, oh, let me just do Germany, right? Because the cost to, C Corp and figure out the right resources, bring in the right resources, maybe prohibitive at the moment. So you may want to think, let me start small, let me get some my legs under me, and then think about expanding abroad. Unless you have an offer, like someone is writing you a check from Germany and you're like, oh my, I gotta take this. So that's different. Then you can say, okay, how do I split a little bit of that check and get some resources that can support me, right? So I can be successful and protected, right, while I do business abroad.
If you hear noise, I'm sorry, I'm baking cookies. So.
I'm sure you're planning to send to everyone here too, right? I'll send you my mailing address. All right. Okay. Chris, let's see. As far as business planning, what are some of the mistakes you have seen, experienced that was very impactful? Okay. Classification, planning was overlooked. Planning that was, well, planning, business planning, it's always an evolving thing, unless doing something that everybody else is doing. So it's like, hey, I'm opening well, every business has its own challenge, right? But if you're in the realm of startup, I think it's definitely something that evolves. So the plans that you have today may be different in 2, 3, or 3 months, right? And it's thinking of also as an iterative process. So the more you start learning to, think about, hey, don't write your business plan and think, oh, it's set in stone, I'll never touch it, right? It needs to evolve, right? It needs to evolve with people that are coming with you growing, right? Because you're getting information, right? You're getting smarter. Other people that are coming in as well that will make your proposition, your offering even stronger, right? So, I think that's one thing. Another thing, I think, in terms of mistakes, right? In terms of mistakes that I've seen, well, it's who, I mean, I think the mistake sometimes is, you find, there's a lot of good talkers out there, right? You find people that say a lot, that can do a lot of things for you, right? So before you bring them on board, right, do your due diligence, right? And do make sure that you give them kind of a trial period. So to understand how you work with them or they work with you, right? Is it the right fit, right? So you are a small entity, right, trying to grow. So everybody you come in, can really, kind of cramp your style, if you will, right? Can really slow down what you're trying to do. So really be careful and don't necessarily go and hire or engage, engage with people for sure, right? Have that conversation, but give yourself time to really understand who's talking to you and really what they have to offer and how they're planning to support you and support your business, right? I think some of the mistakes is sometimes, and like I said, folks like, oh yeah, I can do everything, right? I can do this, I can do this. And then we start interacting with them like, okay, we're deliver the goods and the goods are not there, right? So I mean, to me, that's something mistakes I've made, right? And and it's not, my story is not unique, right? So there are plenty of folks who've gone through that as well, right? So something that you need to be careful with, right? And also, when it comes to flexibility in your planning, also be listening, right? As you're pitching your ideas, as you're talking to people, be receptive, right? Be receptive on criticism, praise, and understand, what are they trying to tell you, right? And how can you incorporate that back into your business, right? To make it stronger, to make your proposition stronger. When we started pitching the business of Evva, right? We see at the earlier slide, I mean, the vision was there, but the journey wasn't really well defined. So that was our experience, right? So we thought we had it well defined. We thought we got the vision. We're like, okay, we got this, right? We know how we're gonna get from point A to point B to point C, and realize, as we're going through this, talking to people, even applying for grants, right? Applying for grants and trying really to define that roadmap. And we saw that, hey, there is a lot of gap, and we've been I've addressed them, and there's always new things, right? That we're like, oh my God, this would be a fine addition. But how do we bring this back now to our business for it to make sense, and for it to transform the proposition into something that's unique, right? And that's different from others. Okay, Sharissa, can you explain what an angel investor, and have you ever used the option for your business financing? Yeah, angel investors, you have in that category. So an angel investor is someone, usually it's a person, right, who's coming to your company, very early. We're investing very early in your company. So, right, so it's not an institutional investor, just like a VC, right, that can come in and say, write a $500,000 check, $1 million check, right, $10 million check, right? So an angel investor is really coming at the early stage, where you probably still have an idea and they believe in it, right? And say, hey, your friends and family are angel investors, right? So if you do a friends and family round, they're putting money, they are your angels, right? They're angels. Now, the question is, have we used them before? Yes, we have, right? So we've done a friends and family round. We've also done a community round. We're still going. We just raised close to $250,000 now through angel investors, right? Folks who believe in that mission, who believe in the vision and how we're trying to solve the problem, and decided, hey, we want to be part of this. And some of them are caregivers, the same people we're trying to help decided to invest. And we've got, and the good thing with the Jobs Act of 2016, they made it possible for non-accredited investors, so investors that are making less, that are bringing home less than $250,000 per year, to be able to invest in organization. Before the Jobs Act 2016, only accredited investors. So you really have to have a lot of money to be able to invest in companies. But now with the Jobs Act, right, you can do these, you hear Reg CF, regulation crowdfunding. You can tap in, you as a company can tap into a network of folks that, hey, they may not be able to write a $25,000 check, right? But they can write $100, they can write $250, right? And we got a few of those folks in our campaign who have invested, right, from $100 to $50, $500, all the way to $25,000, right? But that's a way, especially, I mean, I think especially as someone of color, right? We don't have, and of course, you all in the call could be millionaires, right? Can have families or millionaire, but my side of the story, my side of my family, we're not wealthy, right? So, and I don't have that connection of I cannot sit at the dinner table and ask my uncle, hey uncle, right? Can you sponsor me for 100 grand, right? Right. So I don't have that. So it creates an opportunity to for others, for others like us in our network, right? To get folks that can really participate in our growth and support the idea, support our mission.
So the angel investors, they get back money from their investments, or they're like investing in it and then.
Yeah. So angel investor is an investor, right? It's an investor. So, if you're thinking about, they are coming and getting a share of the company.
Okay.
Right? Now there are, if you think about Kickstarter, so you've probably hear where GoFundMe, it's like donation, right?
Yeah, donation.
So you're not, it's just like, hey, I need money for something. I'm not planning to pay you back. Now you probably hear like, oh, Kickstarter, right?
Yes.
Kickstarter, like the Oculus by, now it's Facebook, like the VR set. I have one behind me here. They started with Kickstarter, and they introduced the concept of super fan, right? The fans will invest, right? But you were giving money, you were not investing, right? So they were trying to raise 250,000, they raised 2.5 million, right? A few years later, Facebook bought them for 2.5 billion. Those super fans
didn't get nothing.
They probably got a discount or maybe a free Oculus.
Wow. Right? Okay.
A community fund like a WeFunder, right? Start Engine, right? You get a share, the investors get a share in the company, right? So, and there's terms we can talk about. I think that may be another call. Let's talk about how do you structure your valuation cap, right? How do you structure a discount, your interest rate, as you're trying to attract investors, right? But ultimately, to answer your question, Charissa, the investors get a piece of that company, right? But it's up to you to control how much you give. You don't want to give too quick,
right?
Too fast, right? You don't want to dilute yourself too quickly, because there'll be other rounds, right? There'll be a stage where, hey, you may be looking for $500,000 now, but it may be in 2 or 3 years, you may be looking for 10 million. Right? You want to be ready. You don't want to dilute yourself. So at the end, when you're ready to receive the 10 million, you take it and you become an employee automatically of your company, right? Because you may have shares, but you're not the majority shareholder anymore, right? So you become, essentially you're an owner for sure, but is the vision of your vision going to be realized, right? Because you're not at the helm anymore. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. I need a trustworthy business mentor. Where can I get one? Let's see. Devin, is that more of a question for you?
Yeah, perhaps. So Joyce, great question. And one of the things that we want to do through this entrepreneurship program in partnership with NSBE is make sure, young business owners have resources they need. And I think a business mentor is definitely a great one for us to consider. So I think as we go through the program, let's continue to talk through those needs and see if we can align you with someone through our network. Perhaps it'll be Carl or someone else. We won't know. So I think that's one of the things that we can definitely work on. And Chris, let's make a note of it to figure out how we can get our program participants who go through this program a trustworthy business mentor. I think that's excellent.
Yeah, I think definitely to Devin's point, I think, and that's why I put it to him, right? Thinking about organization like BDPA, right? They're assembling the right folks, right? You want to tap into that network versus just calling somebody randomly, but like, oh yeah, I know you have a business, can you help me, right? That you can be lucky and find it, right? But at the same time, tapping into organization like BDPA and NSBE, right, can be a good start. And also you want a business mentors that's also aligned to the type of business that you're doing, right? Because, I'm in tech and I don't know if you're in tech, but, it could be a misalignment. So I'm telling you about tech things and, are you, for example, thinking about if you raise money, are you going to split the pie, right? For a tech organization, is definitely probably half of it would be more towards development of technology. But if you're non-tech, right, you're like that 50% probably won't make sense to you, right? So just an example to show that, to tell you that alignment, right, with that, with someone in the same line, like same industry, right? If you're in health tech, more than happy to volunteer and have a conversation, right? We'll chat. Happy to do so. But you said, hey, I'm on something different that's not healthcare, that may be just commercial product. That may not be, I may not be the best one for what you're trying to do. But and I'll say it's all about networking. So Devin, please share my information with the team, with everyone here, right? I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me a chat. Let's connect, right? My email as well. So thank you, Devin. Please connect with me. So if you think I can help in any way, or perhaps something, burning questions that you want to send my way, and say, hey, can I spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes and have a chat on specific topic? Charissa, if you're talking about, convertible notes, safe note, and how do you structure evaluation? What's the evaluation should be, right? Happy to have this conversation, right? So, and for everyone else who's on the call.
Okay, thank you, Carl, for sharing with us today. We're here, we have about 2 minutes left. I dropped 2 links in the chat. One is Carl's LinkedIn page, so definitely feel free to connect with Carl on LinkedIn if you want to stay connected with him and continue the conversation. Then I also dropped the link for our BDPA conference. I mentioned it earlier, but that's coming up August 18th through the 20th in Atlanta, Georgia this year. It will be hybrid, so if you can make it in person, that would be awesome. But if not, there will be a virtual component as well, so you can still participate. So drop both of those links in the chat there. Chris, I know you're on from NSBE. I wanted to give you a chance to say anything if you would like to add anything.
First, I want to say thank you all for showing up. Nothing too much from NSBE's side. Just working to build on this program and continue to build it what it's going to be. So thank you, Carl. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up at the EIR special for the elevator pitch as well a month ago. And thank you all participants for showing up, and I hope to see you at the next event.
Awesome. Happy Friday.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Well, thank you, Carl, for sharing with us. Thank you to everyone who joined today. We will share the recording out here soon. But have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you next time.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
You want to say something, too?
Good one.